Can I not get on this corner?
When you're in a dinking situation, try to aim the ball so that it lands right around here. This placement can put your opponent on their back foot, which won't allow them to dink it that cross court. As soon as you think that they're going to go down the line here, scale the kitchen and strike. When you're in a dinking situation, try to aim the ball so that it lands right around here. This placement can put your opponent on their back foot, which won't allow them to dink it that cross court. As soon as you think that they're going to go down the line here, scale the kitchen. If there's one thing you should know.
Here are two super simple things that 5-0 players think when they're in a hands battle. Number one is to reset any ball that is low. So any ball that goes below waist level, they're going to be hitting that ball soft, trying to get it to land in the kitchen. The second thing that they think is to counter high balls down. So any ball that is above waist level, they're going to try to hit down on that ball, specifically aiming for their opponent's shoelaces. The reason you want to aim for your opponent's shoelaces is because they can't create power from this position, and their feet are in the...
There's an insanely deceptive shot in pickleball that's becoming more popular. So I got my friend Gabriel Tardio to show us how it's done. Basically, you just... There's an insanely deceptive shot in pickleball that's becoming more popular. So I got my friend Gabriel Tardio to show us how it's done. Basically, you just...
Hey guys, Jessie Urban here with Engage Pickleball, and I have another strategy tip for you. So, let's say you're playing gender doubles or mixed doubles, and you're playing against a team that is extremely aggressive off the bounce at the kitchen line. Meaning, you're dinking and they like to pull as soon as they can, as soon as the ball bounces, and it's very hard to cover, and you don't know where to cover when they're attacking the ball off the bounce. One thing that I like to do, because a lot of the times, if someone's very good at attacking off the bounce, you can't...
To go from a 3-5 to a...
If you like Brian Kemp, you're going to love Rick Jackson.
Rick Jackson's been a good supporter of mine.
Yeah. Singles pickleball is way more physically demanding than doubles. So if you want to be able to win, you need to know all the techniques and strategies that I'm about to go through. As someone who's played singles pickleball at the pro level, I can safely say that all the tips I'm about to singles are a lot more important because you can really do a lot more damage in the first two shots. So if you hit a really good serve or a really good return, there's a way higher likelihood that you'll win the point. In this video, we're going to focus more on how to serve good and return good for singles, though. So we're not going to go too deep into like the technique of serves and returns themselves. If you want to go deep into that, we have a full video on that, so go check it out. If not, though, let's talk about how to serve for pickleball singles. So why serving in pickleball singles is so important? You kind of have to set in deep. So if I can get my serve nice and deep towards the back portion of the box, it makes it a lot harder for my opponent to run forward and get to the kitchen after their return, which if they're returning, they should be trying to run forward and get to the kitchen. So if I hit a nice deep serve, he has to stay back, and that gives me more of an opening, which there I could have taken advantage of that and hit a pass. So getting your serve deep in pickleball singles is a necessity in terms of playing effective. So if I'm hitting it super deep and it's slow, That still leaves my opponent to hit a pretty good return, right? You can hit a pretty hard, fast return if I'm hitting a slow return, even if it's deep. So what I want to do is get good power and spin so that he doesn't have much of an opportunity to attack me on his return. If he can attack me with his return, it's going to be really hard for me to win the point. So with the serve in pickleball singles, you want to do whatever you can to make things challenging for them. And the way you do that is with depth, power, and spin. As a bonus tip, what you can also do, and this doesn't really work as well in pickleball doubles, but you can also try to get your opponent off the court, out to the side more, because that leaves a huge gap for you on your next shot. So if I hit my serve, we're on the left side, right? Right now, if I hit my serve more towards the side like this, in my third shot, all of a sudden I have a way bigger gap, you see. So you can still go down the middle or more towards your opponent too, but if I serve down the middle, he's already sort of in the middle of the court and can cover either side a little bit better. So sometimes going out to the side can be an effective way.
Nice. Okay, rotates. If I go now, this gets no like this one would be good. So just need to start running. So follow this guy. Should be good.
to make your serve a little bit better. If your opponents are super fast, it might not make much of a difference, but if your opponents aren't super fast, it can actually be huge in terms of setting yourself up for a good third shot. When it comes to returning in singles, just like on your serve, it's a lot more important to hit an effective return than in doubles. And the first thing that you want to think about is giving yourself a little bit of space. So because your opponent's probably going to be trying to serve harder, you want to make sure you have enough space to move forward through the ball and give yourself time after it bounces to hit an effective return. So see an example of that. Drew's hitting a pretty deep return there, but because I started back, I give myself a little bit of extra space, which lets me hit a good return as I'm moving in. So next thing to focus on is you definitely want to try to hit your return and move in. So sometimes you'll see pro women or certain players hit their return and stay back, but I think it's 100% ideal in pickleball singles to try your best to hit your return and move into the kitchen immediately, just like you would do in doubles. Because what that does is it just lets you take over the net. When you're the first player in, you have a big advantage. So here's an example of what that looks like in a real point. Hit my return, I move straight into the kitchen, where I tried to hit my fourth shot as a volley, like I did there. If I don't move on my return, I essentially give my opponent the advantage in the point, which they shouldn't have as the serving player. So that looks like this. I stay back, and Drew's actually the first player to come in, and he can, winner on that shot because my return's actually not doing much damage. So the first two shots in a pickleball singles point should generally look like this. Drew hits the serve, I take my return and immediately move forward, where he tries to go for a passing shot or do something like he just did there. In terms of what of where you aim the return, this is through look like. Inside in forehand, but if you want to use the forehand on this side, this is a very versatile pass that works all around the court. And one bonus tip that I like to do is the serve. I take, in terms of where you aim the return, this is super important. So nothing I say is 100% true against every player, but a lot of the time, returning cross-court in pickleball singles can give you a pretty big disadvantage, and I'll show you why. So when Drew serves me here and I hit a cross-court return, I give him a little bit of an advantage with his passing shot because it makes it a lot easier for him to hit that down-the-line passing shot, which, as I'll tell you later, is one of the most effective ones to go for. So in general, going down the line or down the middle makes things a little bit easier for you as the returner in terms of making it slightly more challenging for your opponent to hit a good passing shot. So if I'm going down the line, it doesn't have as much of an angle, and it's a little bit easier for me to cover that cross-court pass, which I'll also talk about later. The exception to this rule is if your opponent is way weaker on one side. So usually if you're playing someone, a lot of the time their backhand pass or their backhand third shot is not nearly as good. So in that case, it's probably more worth it to go cross-court in this situation, just so you force them to hit a backhand. But what happens after the serve and return? If you're the serving player, you're probably going to try to hit a passing shot. And if you're the returner, you're probably going to be at the net, at the kitchen line, defending these passing shots. For reference, a passing shot is when you're hitting a shot from the back and your opponent's up and you're trying to hit it past them. So it would look something like this, where he's at the net volleying and I'm trying to hit my ground strokes right by him. So this is a term stolen from tennis where passing shots are also super common. So let's talk about how to hit good passing shots. Before I get into that though, make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Every week I try to make the best video that I possibly can to try to help you improve. So make sure to click the subscribe button below this video and you'll get suggested everything that we make. When it comes to passing shots, there's 4 main types that I see players using. The first, and probably the most common, is a hard down the line pass. So when I say down the line, that means that you're hitting the ball straight ahead, parallel with the sideline. So a down the line passing shot looks like this. I'm just hitting the ball straight down that line. The next passing shot we're going to talk about is the angle. So the angle is where I go cross court. So cross court's the opposite of down the line, where I'm going at an angle. But the angle passing shot, I don't hit it really hard. I use more spin and finesse to make it land closer to the kitchen. So the angle pass looks something like this. I'm trying to get the ball to land a little bit in front of Drew. I'll show you that one again. Trying to make the ball land a little bit in front of Drew so that he can't reach it. So an angle looks something like that. And you see I can make him stretch a lot with that one. The next type we're going to cover is the hard cross-court pass. So I can do the angle where I'm hitting it softer and getting into the kitchen more. And I can also go for the hard cross-court pass where I'm just hitting it like the down-the-line one, but going cross-court. So that one wasn't very good. He got it. But I can hit my cross-court pass hard to where he can't get it like that. And the last type of pass we're going to cover, probably the most difficult to use and least common, is a double-style drop, where I hit a normal drop and I move forward to play up here. So your opponent will probably get that one back, but it can be very effective if you know how to use that pass properly. So all these passes that I just went over can be done on both the forehand side, and they can also be done on the backhand side using what's called an inside-out forehand. So if I'm over here, I can use a backhand, of course, but if you prefer your forehand, you can also do what's called running around your forehand and hit these same shots from this side with a forehand. So I can still go up the line and go for angles cross court with my forehand over here too. If you already play singles, make sure to let me know in the comments which one of those passing shots is your favorite. I'm curious to know. For me though, I listed it in order of which I like best. So my favorite's the down the line, and then the angle, and so on. If you agree with me, make sure to like this video. If not though, let me know in the comments which are your favorite. Now though, let's go through all of them. Starting off with the hard down the line drive. I think this might be the best passing shot because for a lot of players, it's the easiest one to make in, especially if you're at a lower level. So it's easy to be consistent with the down the line hard drive. In terms of what you want to focus on, the main thing is keeping the ball low and using topspin. So a lot of the time your opponents are going to get this shot back. So if they do, you want to make sure that you have the ball low so they can't do too much with it, and you can try to get their next ball back too. So keeping the ball low and using that topspin is going to be big in terms of making the shot effective. The next thing is the better your opponent is at covering the court, the closer you're going to need to aim this shot to the line. So Drew is a very good mover. So if I'm playing him I'm going to want to hit this pass probably within 2 feet of that line, or else he's going to get it back. If I'm hitting the pass, more towards the middle, he's just going to hit a winner on the volley. So it's important to keep in mind that the person that's at the net or at the kitchen line has a big advantage. So you really need to make these passes good in order to be effective. If you see a big gap, though, this is one of the best passing shots to hit. So if Drew is really off to the side of the court, I can use that down line pass. It's a super effective way for me to finish off the point fast. And it works just as well on the backhand side, too. So you do the exact same thing with your backhand. I have a two-handed backhand, but if you have a one-hander or you want to use your inside, this would be called an inside-in forehand. But if you want to use the forehand on this side, this is a very versatile pass that works all around the court. And one bonus tip that I like to do with this pass, but it also works for the other passes too, is if your opponent hits a return that's not very deep, what you can do is take it a little bit earlier. And what that does is it takes their time away, so they don't have as much time to get in and in position, so you have more court to work with. So if Drew hits a shorter return, I can move forward and essentially take that ball earlier, where he didn't have much time to get, over to this side of the court. So you can take advantage of the fact that he didn't return it deep. The next pass I want to go over, though, is the short angle. So that looks like this. Your opponents come in, and you use a little dipper angle to get the ball by them. The one thing I'll say about this one is that it's definitely the hardest to get the hang of. If you don't have good touch and you can't hit a third shot drop in doubles, you might not be able to hit this.
I hate fighting with this.
This one consistently, but you should still learn it either way. And so all you're trying to do with this passing shot is hit a slower, so it's not full power, hit a slower angle that lands probably closer to the corner of the kitchen. So like right here. So that's like the perfect spot. So somewhere in this range. If I hit it and it's gonna land here, my opponent actually might be able to get it back. So it's really a defined range right there in the corner of that kitchen. And to show you what that looks like from the back, again, I'm gonna try to go for topspin. And I want to get it right where I just showed you. So see there, he can still get it. But if I get that nice angle, it makes it a little bit harder for him. And just like on the down the line, depending on how good your opponent is at covering the court, you're going to have to go for more in terms of making it effective. So if they're really fast, you might really need to get it here. But if they're not that fast, you can maybe play it a little safer and hit it in this area and still get the same result. And you can do on the backhand side too, which looks like this. Going for that little short angle, and see if I can make that, it's going to be tough for any player to get it back. So very effective pass. Like I said, though, it's a little bit hard to get the hang of. The feel, it's a very accurate short angle. That wasn't a great one, but so you need to make sure that you practice it if you want to get the hang of it. To show you one more example on the forehand, this looks just like this. So I have that shot, going for that short angle. That wasn't a great one, but still got the job done. The next passing shot we're going to go over, though, is the hard cross court, which looks like this. So essentially the same idea as the hard down the line, except I'm going at that cross-court angle. And this passing shot can be very effective, but the reason why I think it's slightly less effective than the down the line is when I draw a line cross-court, my opponent doesn't necessarily have to go quite as far as if I was to draw a line down the line. Because if they're sitting in the middle, the line is the farthest place away from them. And if you're hitting a cross-court drive, you can't necessarily get it to go on that line, right? You can make it land on the line, but the path there might cross by your opponent. So it could make it a little bit easier for your opponent to hit the ball. That said, though, if you have an open gap, the shot's really effective. So if you see that there's an open gap and you have that cross-court opening, it can work very well. So just like on the down the line one, I think this is a more opportune shot where if you see the opening and you need to hit it cross-court, you go for it. If your opponent's already up though, standing in the middle of the kitchen like this, I'd probably avoid the cross-court drive because they might be able to reach it just by lunging in either direction. In terms of where to aim this shot, I like to go off the side of the court more. So if you're going off the back of the court, there's a very good chance that your opponents are going to be able to get it back. But if the ball's going off the side of the court on either side, so on this side, it would look like this, that's going to make it pretty challenging for your opponent to get the shot back. And the last style pass is pretty much a double style drop. So all I'm doing here is using a drop that I used to come forward on, which I can hopefully open up the court with like that. I'm not going to go too much into the technique of a normal drop here, but if you want to look at that, we have a full video on it. If you're going to go for that double style drop though, which I can hopefully challenging for your opponent to get the shot back. And the last style pass is pretty much a double style drop. So all I'm doing here is using a drop that I used to come forward on, which I can hopefully open up the court with like that. I'm not going to go too much into the technique of a normal drop here, but if you want to look at that, we have a full video on it. If you're going to go for that double style drop though, the one thing to think about is that you want to get it out to the sides of the court, probably ideally to your opponent's backhand. After you hit any of these passing shots, if you do it well, your goal should be to try and move forward, where you'll either get an easy shot that you can kill, or get into what's called cat and mouse, where you get into a dink battle like this with your opponent, where somebody comes on top like that. Before I get into that though, let's talk about what you do when you're defending passing shots. So when you're the returning player, your first goal, like I said, is to get into the kitchen. So you don't want to stay back if you don't need to. When you get here, you want to take a big split step. So the footwork of the return is super important so that you're set up to react to their passing shot. And when you're up here, it's a little weird because you're technically on offense because your opponent's back and you're up, but you're kind of on defense because you don't know what they're going to do. So you're sort of at the mercy of what kind of passing shot they're going to hit. So you need to be really set up to defend their passing shots with lunging steps like this. So that's super important to being effective when you're returning. And depending on what type of pass